Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
David's quiet Hollywood Hills neighborhood has now become the center of a chilling revelation. A neighbor who lived right next door has come forward with testimony that casts serious doubt on the narrative being pushed by David's team and raises disturbing questions about what really happened in the months before Celeste Rivas's tragic death. According to this witness, who spoke exclusively on September 25, 2025, David and Celeste weren't just acquaintances, they appeared to be living together as a couple. The neighbor, who wished to remain anonymous, described seeing them frequently at the rental home David had been staying in since early 2024. To him, they looked like an ordinary young pair, quiet, polite.
That I spoke to are in the LA music scene, so they know David very, very well. They didn't know Celeste as well as they knew David, but they did notice that he was bringing her along when they would go to parties in the music scene.
And seemingly no different from other neighbors in the area. He recalled no late-night parties, no police visits, no chaos. Just what looked like a normal domestic arrangement between two consenting adults. But this assumption, the witness admitted, was based on a dangerous misconception. He believed Celeste was around 18 or 19, never realizing that she was in fact a missing teenager whose family and law enforcement had been desperately searching for her. This misunderstanding makes the testimony even more unsettling, especially since the neighbor last saw them together in July 2025, well over a year after Celeste had already been reported missing. The most haunting detail, however, came when the neighbor recalled David's damaged Tesla. The vehicle, later revealed to be where Celeste's remains were discovered, had been parked outside the property for weeks. He remembered asking David about the rear-end damage, but David brushed off the question and never made any effort to repair it.
They would have hangouts after a recording session, and they knew David to be a very gentle person, is what they told me. They also described him as very soft-spoken.
Perhaps most significantly,
friends around him are extremely shocked that he's even remotely connected to this grisly murder of a 14-year-old girl. Obviously, he has not been named a person of interest, and from what we've seen, there is no legitimate connection connecting him to the death of this young.
The Tesla sat there, visibly wrecked, until it was finally towed on September 5, 2025. Just 3 days later, workers at the tow yard made the horrifying discovery after noticing the unmistakable odor of decomposition. The timeline of this detail is critical. On August 26th, the neighbor saw the damage but reported no unusual smells. The car received parking citations on August 27th and September 3rd before being towed. Investigators believe the Tesla's airtight design may have delayed the release of any odor until after it was moved.
Where did they get the idea that she was somehow a 19-year-old going to USC as a college
I know. Isn't that just so crazy? Because, you know, we think, how does a 14-year-old child present as a 19-year-old woman? And I was told that these people were just so sure that she was a college student. They were specific. They said that she attended USC from what they believed.
What seemed at the time like an abandoned, damaged car has now become central to one of the most disturbing cases in recent Hollywood memory. This neighbor's account, now corroborated by multiple media outlets, has ignited furious debate online. Some view it as a damning piece of evidence proving David's deeper involvement with Celeste, while others argue it paints them as a normal couple, raising deeply troubling questions about how such a relationship could have been ignored by those around them. The testimony also directly contradicts David's representatives, who have insisted his contact with Celeste was minimal. Instead, it points to a long-term cohabitation, suggesting levels of intimacy and concealment that investigators are now aggressively piecing together. Law enforcement executed a search warrant on September 18, 2025, at the Hollywood Hills property, but no immediate arrest was made, an indication that officials are still carefully reconstructing the timeline of events. The revelations don't stop at the neighbor. David's friends and associates have also begun speaking out, forming what many see as a coordinated defense. According to reporting from TMZ and News Nation, several of David's peers in the LA music scene claimed they knew Celeste only as his girlfriend and believed she was 19. They insist she used fake identification and presented herself as older, allowing her to integrate seamlessly into David's social and professional life.
It's so sad to hear that you and I are talking about a 14-year-old girl, but I keep going back to the fact that it's possible he connected with her as early as 12, and on the far end, maybe even 11. Did these friends have a long relationship with David? Like, for instance, did they know Celeste when she was maybe 13 or, God forbid, even 12?
Yeah, so the people that I spoke with just recently got to know him. You know, he has been popular for quite some time. We know that he had been signed to a record label when he was underage. However, he has kind of blown up in the music scene the past couple years. So it would have been the past couple years that they did know her.
With each new piece of testimony, the story becomes harder to accept at face value. How could a teenager officially listed as missing, live openly in one of LA's wealthiest neighborhoods, attend industry parties, and socialize with David's inner circle, all without anyone raising the alarm? What emerges is a deeply troubling portrait of silence, oversight, and possible complicity. David's neighbor may have thought he was watching the quiet lives of two young adults, but in reality, he was witnessing the unraveling of a tragedy that has now shocked the world. The timeline of these friendships raises troubling questions about the plausibility of the ignorance David's friends now claim. As painful as it is to discuss, the possibility that David connected with Celeste as early as 12 or perhaps even 11 cannot be ignored.
So, you know, everything he did in his life, she kind of seemed to follow.
Do we know, Charlie, if these friends had any inkling?
His friends, however, insist they only got to know him in the past couple of years, after his rapid rise in the music scene, and say they believed Celeste was around 19. They described her as someone who followed David closely, appearing at parties and gatherings, blending into his social and professional world in a way that didn't initially raise suspicions. Yet, when considering Celeste's actual lifestyle during this period, the cracks in this defense begin to show. She wasn't home much. She wasn't attending school. At 13, she should have just entered middle school, but instead she seemed to disappear into David's orbit. Friends told media outlets like Fox LA and Times of India that they assumed she was older because she carried fake IDs and presented herself as an adult. Still, the uncomfortable truth remains. Celeste was a child whose real peers would have been elementary school friends, not industry insiders. Public reaction has been overwhelmingly skeptical. Social media users have questioned how an entire circle of adults could remain blind to her true age, especially given reports that the relationship may have begun when she was only 11 or 12. Critics point to alleged Discord interactions dating back to 2022 as evidence that Celeste was misrepresenting her age in spaces tied directly to David. The tab described the friend's statements as extremely disturbing, especially in light of revelations that Celeste was just 14 when the relationship became public, and far younger when it may have actually started. The broader timeline that investigators and digital sleuths have pieced together is even more damning. Evidence suggests the relationship began in 2022, when David was 17 and Celeste was still in elementary school. Discord chats, resurfaced photos, and social media activity point to early interactions that fit a clear grooming pattern. One of the most chilling details is that David and Celeste shared matching tattoos on their fingers, a symbol of intimacy that investigators later used to confirm her identity. By 2023, when David turned 18 and Celeste was just 13, the alleged relationship had evolved into something romantic, according to witnesses. This period is critical because any involvement would constitute statutory rape under California law. Celeste's mother later told reporters that her daughter had been dating someone named David before her disappearance in April 2024, when she was only 14. That revelation suggests the family only became aware of the relationship long after it had already taken root. Witnesses described Celeste running away at 13 to be with David, skipping school, and distancing herself from her family. Experts say this aligns with the isolation stage of grooming, where perpetrators sever victims from normal social structures. Photos and social media posts show the pair dressed in matching Hello Kitty attire, and tweets from David allegedly referenced her presence during his songwriting sessions, evidence she had become deeply woven into both his private and professional life. Celeste's last known online activity occurred in January 2024, just months before she disappeared, raising questions about whether their communication had shifted to less traceable forms. The tragic timeline lays bare the full scope of what happened. She was 12 at first contact, 13 when the dating allegedly began, 14 when she disappeared, and just 15 at the time of her death. At every stage, she was under the age of consent. What emerges is not a story of ignorance, but one of a carefully concealed relationship that crossed legal and moral boundaries long before it ended in tragedy. The multi-year timeline raises troubling questions about the adults in David's circle who may have been aware of Celeste's true age. The evidence suggests grooming behavior, with David positioned as an older, more powerful figure in the entertainment industry who may have taken advantage of a young fan's admiration to establish an inappropriate relationship. This discovery adds another layer of complexity to an already disturbing case. Celeste's body was found in such a state of decomposition that investigators believe she died weeks before being discovered, possibly in late August 2025, during Los Angeles's extreme heat. That timing coincides with the report of a Tesla being damaged and abandoned, suggesting a direct link between her death and the vehicle. The Tesla's condition provided additional clues. Parked in the Hollywood Hills for weeks, its airtight design likely contained odors until it reached the tow yard, which may explain why her body wasn't detected sooner despite the car's visible location. The legal implications of this timeline are severe. Because Celeste was underage, prosecutors may pursue charges beyond homicide, including lewd acts with a minor, child endangerment, and possibly sex trafficking, if evidence shows David transported her across state lines. Such charges could bring lengthy prison sentences and mandatory sex offender registration if proven. Public reaction to these revelations has been overwhelmingly negative for David. Social media erupted with accusations of grooming and murder, with users highlighting the age gap and leaked evidence. The backlash quickly affected his career. Crocs and Hollister ended partnerships with him, citing concerns about association with allegations involving a minor. His Seattle concert on September 17th was cancelled following Celeste's identification, and uncertainty now surrounds his entire tour. Streaming numbers also dropped sharply, with Romantic Homicide losing 15% of plays in just 24 hours after the timeline was revealed. The case has sparked wider conversations about how minors are protected in online spaces and the entertainment industry. Discord servers and social media platforms, which reportedly allowed initial contact between David and Celeste, are now facing scrutiny. Many are calling for stronger verification and monitoring systems to prevent adult celebrities from contacting underage fans. As of September 26, 2025, no charges have yet been filed against David in relation to the relationship or Celeste's death. However, investigators are analyzing digital evidence, and the timeline of events has drawn deeper focus in the homicide case. What has emerged is a disturbing picture of a relationship that allegedly began when Celeste was still a child and continued until her death as a teenager. This represents not just a personal tragedy, but also a systemic failure to protect a vulnerable young person from exploitation. What began as shocking headlines about a body found in a celebrity's car has evolved into a complex story of alleged grooming, statutory violations, and a tragic failure of protection. Testimonies from neighbors, defensive statements from friends, and the disturbing timeline all point to a collective failure by adults who should have recognized and acted on the warning signs. This case is more than a criminal investigation. It is a stark reminder of the responsibility society carries to safeguard its most vulnerable.